The 28th of October, 2025, 14:23 hours, Caribbean Sea, 180 miles northeast of Venezuelan airspace. An F-35 Lightning II streaked across empty sky at 28,000 feet, routine patrol, standard trade route, surveillance. Then the radio crackled. Lightning I, we have 2 contacts climbing fast from the south, bearing 185, they're coming for you. The pilot's hand moved to the throttle, his radar screen painted 2 red diamonds accelerating through 15,000 feet. Venezuelans Su 30 seconds. And they weren't slowing down. The F-35 wasn't supposed to be there alone. Coalition exercises had been scheduled for weeks across the Caribbean corridor. This was international airspace, a vital shipping lane where container vessels moved billions in cargo every month. The Pentagon tracked every nautical mile, every potential threat vector. But tensions had been building. Venezuela saw American jets as instruments of pressure. Every patrol felt like a challenge to their sovereignty, even when flown 200 miles from their coast. Their Ministry of Defense had issued warnings through back channels. Stay away from our operational zones. Stop the surveillance flights. Stop treating our waters like your training ground. Washington ignored those warnings. The F-35 pilot, call sign Viper 7, had launched from USS Ronald Reagan 2 hours earlier. His mission brief was simple: fly the route, stream sensor data back to command, monitor shipping traffic, return to carrier, standard patrol, repeated dozens of times across the region every week. His aircraft was a flying sensor platform. Every radar pulse, every infrared signature, every communication intercept fed directly into Pentagon networks. The F-35 wasn't just watching. It was recording, analyzing, building intelligence profiles on every vessel and aircraft within 300 miles. Venezuela knew this. Their intelligence services tracked American stealth fighters with growing frustration. They couldn't always see them on radar, but they knew the patterns, they knew the routes. And today, they decided to send a message. At Libertador Air Base, 2 Su-30 Mk-2V fighters had been sitting on hot standby since dawn. Pilots strapped in, engines warm, missiles loaded. The base commander had received direct orders from Caracas. If an American stealth fighter entered the operational zone, intercept it, show them we're serious, make them think twice about their next patrol. When Viper 7's radar signature appeared on Venezuelan early warning systems, the order came immediately. Launch. The 2 Su-30 seconds roared down the runway at 14:19 hours. 4 minutes later, they were climbing through 12,000 feet, afterburners blazing, heading straight toward the American fighter. Viper 7 saw them coming long before they saw him. The F-35 sensors painted a complete tactical picture. 2 aircraft, Russian-made, carrying a full combat load, 4 air-to-air missiles each, drop tanks for extended range. They were configured for a fight, not a flyby. Lightning I, maintain heading and altitude. Do not engage unless fired upon. Confirm. The voice from USS Valor, a destroyer positioned 90 miles to the west, was calm but firm. The rules of engagement were clear. American forces could defend themselves, but they wouldn't fire first. Viper 7 checked his weapon systems anyway. 2 AIM-120 missiles in internal bays, full countermeasures loaded. His aircraft could outrun anything Venezuela had, but only if he saw the threat coming early enough. The Su-30 seconds closed the distance fast. At 40 miles out, they split into a pincer formation. One aircraft swung wide left, the other right. Classic intercept pattern, designed to trap a target between 2 firing solutions. Viper 7's radar warning receiver began chirping. They were painting him now, locking their targeting radars onto his position. The sound was steady, insistent, they knew where he was. At 25 miles, the Venezuelan lead pilot radioed on guard frequency. American aircraft, you are operating in Venezuelan defense zone. Alter course immediately or we will engage. Viper 7 glanced at his moving map display. He was 180 miles from Venezuelan territorial waters. This was international airspace. There was no legal defense zone here. Negative Venezuelan aircraft. I am in international airspace conducting lawful operations. Break off your intercept. No response. The Su-30 seconds kept closing. At 15 miles, Viper 7 made his decision. He couldn't outmaneuver 2 fighters in a turning fight. His only advantage was stealth and speed in a straight line. He pushed the throttle forward, accelerating to 520 knots, and began a shallow climb to 32,000 feet. The Venezuelan pilots saw the move. They pushed their own throttles to maximum afterburner, their engines screaming as they climbed after him. But they were getting desperate. Their fuel was burning fast. They had maybe 10 minutes before they'd need to turn back. If they were going to act, it had to be now. At 12 miles, the lead Su-30's weapons officer made the call. Fox 3. The Russian R-77 missile dropped from the wing pylon, ignited, and accelerated to Mach 4. Viper 7's threat warning exploded with sound. Missile launch, inbound, active radar homing. He reacted instantly, throwing the F-35 into a hard defensive turn while dumping chaff and flares. The countermeasures blossomed behind him in a cloud of metallic strips and burning magnesium, creating false targets for the missile seeker. The first R-77 went for the chaff. Its warhead detonated 200 feet behind the F-35, spraying shrapnel through empty air. But the second Su-30 had already fired. Fox 3, Fox 3. Two more missiles in the air. The Venezuelan pilots were committing everything. Viper 7 rolled inverted and pulled down, bleeding altitude in a desperate dive. His aircraft screamed as it accelerated past 600 knots. The G-forces crushed him into his seat. His vision narrowed at the edges. One missile lost lock, confused by the sudden maneuver and the ground clutter below. The other kept tracking. It closed the distance in 8 seconds. The proximity fuse triggered at 40 feet. The warhead detonated with 70 pounds of high explosive, sending a wave of tungsten fragments through the air. The F-35 shuddered as shrapnel tore into its left wing and aft fuselage. Warning lights flooded the cockpit. Hydraulic pressure dropping, flight control degraded, engine temperature climbing, fire warning in the left bay. Lightning 1 is hit, I'm hit, losing hydraulics, engine temp redline. His aircraft was dying. The flight computer was fighting to keep the nose up, but the damaged control surfaces weren't responding properly. The jet yawed left, pulled by the damaged wing. Viper 7 had seconds to decide. Eject now over water or try to stretch the glide toward a better bailout position. He chose to fight for every mile. Below him, USS Valor's Combat Information Center exploded into action. The destroyer's Aegis radar system had tracked the entire engagement. 3 missile launches, 1 hit, an American F-35 critically damaged and descending. The commanding officer stood at the center of the combat center, watching the tactical display. His orders from Fleet Command had been clear. Protect American assets, respond proportionally to any attack. This was no longer a proportional situation. Weapons free, engage hostile aircraft, get those fighters off my pilot. The weapons officer's hands moved across the console with practiced speed. Target 1, locked. Target 2, locked. SM-6 missiles spinning up in vertical launch cells, birds away. 2 SM-6 missiles erupted from the forward deck, riding columns of flame into the Caribbean sky. They arced upward, accelerating past Mach 3, their active radar seekers painting the Venezuelan fighters with precision. The Su-30 pilots never saw them coming. Their radar warning receivers screamed too late. They had maybe 3 seconds to react. The lead pilot tried to turn, dumping flares in a desperate last move. The SM-6 didn't care about flares. It tracked the aircraft's skin, the metal and heat signature that no countermeasure could hide. It closed the final 2,000 feet in half a second. The warhead detonated directly beneath the Su-30's fuselage. The blast tore through the fighter's belly, ripping apart fuel tanks and hydraulic lines. The aircraft disintegrated into a fireball at 24,000 feet. No ejection, the pilot died instantly. The second SM-6 struck 3 seconds later. The wingman Su-30 exploded in midair. Both pilot and aircraft vaporized in the detonation. But the Pentagon wasn't finished. 4 FA-18 Super Hornets had been airborne 120 miles north, conducting a separate patrol. The moment Viper 7 transmitted his distress call, they turned south at maximum speed. Their weapons load was already configured for strike missions: AGM-88 anti-radiation missiles, joint direct attack munitions. Each aircraft carried enough firepower to level a city block. Their target was Libertador Air Base. The base commander had been monitoring the engagement on his radar screen. He watched his 2 fighters close on the American jet, he saw the missile launches, he saw the F-35 get hit. Then he saw his fighters disappear from the screen. He grabbed the radio, trying to reach his pilots. Nothing but static. Then new contacts appeared on his radar. 4 aircraft inbound from the north, flying low and fast. He knew what was coming. All personnel to shelters. This is not a drill. Incoming strike. The base alarm wailed across the tarmac. Pilots and ground crews sprinted for hardened bunkers. Maintenance vehicles abandoned on the runway. Aircraft still on the ground sat exposed, helpless targets. The Super Hornets crossed into Venezuelan airspace at 600 feet, skimming below the effective range of most surface-to-air defenses. Their targeting pods painted the airbase with infrared and laser designators. At 15 miles out, they pulled up into a pop-up attack profile. Magnum, Magnum, Magnum. 3 AGM-88 missiles launched, each one homing on the radar emissions from the base's air defense systems. The Venezuelan SAM operators had less than 20 seconds warning. They tried to shut down their radars, but it was too late. The missiles were already committed. The first AGM-88 struck the command bunker, punching through reinforced concrete before detonating inside. The blast collapsed the structure, killing everyone inside. The base's coordination network went dark instantly. The second missile hit an S-125 missile battery, obliterating the launcher and its crew. The third destroyed a mobile radar station, leaving burning wreckage across the tree line. With air defenses suppressed, the Super Hornets rolled in for their main attack. JDAMs dropped in sequence, guided by GPS coordinates fed from satellite reconnaissance. The first bomb hit the main hangar, collapsing the roof and destroying 6 aircraft inside. The second struck the fuel depot. The explosion was massive, a mushrooming fireball that rose 300 feet into the air. Secondary explosions rippled across the base as fuel trucks and ammunition stores cooked off in the heat. The third and fourth bombs cratered the runway, ripping apart concrete and burying unexploded ordnance beneath tons of debris. The fifth hit the barracks. The 6-story structure collapsed on itself, trapping dozens of soldiers beneath concrete and steel. The entire strike lasted 4 minutes. By the time the Super Hornets egressed Venezuelan airspace, Libertador Air Base was a smoking ruin. Fires burned across 40 acres. Rescue crews dug frantically through rubble, searching for survivors. Viper 7 fought his crippled F-35 for another 6 minutes. The jet was barely responding, yawing wildly, bleeding hydraulic fluid from ruptured lines. The engine was running hot, threatening to seize. Fire warnings kept flashing despite every suppression system activating. At 8,000 feet, he knew he was out of options. Lightning 1 ejecting. He pulled the handle. The canopy exploded away. The rocket motor beneath his seat fired, launching him clear of the dying aircraft. The wind blast hit him like a hammer. The parachute deployed automatically, snapping him upright in the harness. Below him, the F-35 pitched nose down and spiraled into the Caribbean. It hit the water at 400 knots, disintegrating on impact. Pieces of the aircraft sank immediately, disappearing into 12,000 feet of water. Viper 7 splashed down 2 minutes later. He activated his survival beacon and inflated his life raft. The water was warm, but the sun was brutal. He could last days if he had to, but he knew rescue was already coming. A Navy helicopter reached him 40 minutes later. The rescue swimmer dropped into the water, secured the pilot, and they lifted him clear. By 15:30 hours, Viper 7 was aboard USS Valor, receiving medical treatment for minor injuries. He was bruised, shaken, but alive. The Venezuelan death toll wasn't so light. 2 pilots killed in the air. At Libertador Air Base, rescue crews pulled 183 bodies from the rubble over the next 3 days. Most were ground crew, maintenance personnel, and administrative staff. 52 more were critically injured. The base itself was inoperable for months. Reconstruction costs were estimated at $400 million. Venezuela's already struggling economy couldn't absorb the blow. The geopolitical response was immediate and severe. The United States released full telemetry data showing the Venezuelan fighters firing first. International maritime law was clear. The F-35 had been in international airspace. The attack was unprovoked aggression. The American response, while devastating, was legally justified self-defense. Venezuela's government tried to frame it differently, claiming the F-35 had violated their airspace, that the intercept was legitimate, but their own radar data contradicted the story. The shootdown happened 180 miles from their coast. No international body recognized a defense zone that far offshore. Within 48 hours, regional allies distanced themselves from Caracas. Trade partnerships cooled, military cooperation agreements were quietly suspended. Venezuela found itself more isolated than before. The Pentagon, meanwhile, used the incident to showcase exactly what American precision warfare looked like. The entire engagement, from first missile launch to final bomb strike, lasted 38 minutes. In that span, the U.S. military destroyed 2 fighters, neutralized an airbase, and rescued a downed pilot, all while maintaining complete tactical control. Air defense analysts studied the engagement for months. The speed of the American response was staggering. USS Valor's SM-6 missiles were in the air less than 90 seconds after Viper 7 reported being hit. The Super Hornets struck Libertador Air Base within 18 minutes. This wasn't improvisation. It was integrated warfare executed with surgical precision. Every Venezuelan radar station within 200 miles of the border went silent after that. Their air force grounded most of its remaining fighters, unwilling to risk another confrontation. Patrol patterns changed overnight. No Venezuelan aircraft approached international airspace without explicit clearance protocols. The Caribbean corridor returned to routine operations within a week. American patrols resumed unchanged. But now, every Venezuelan pilot knew exactly what would happen if they made the same mistake again. The message was delivered. The costs were counted. The balance of power had shifted, and everyone knew it. Watch what happens when Russia tests American air defenses next.